So, Rachel, we were talking about forgiveness, and we're going to move on now to gratitude and being grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so gratitude is another everyday practice that influences lots of different areas of our health and our well-being. And I think it's really interesting because I find gratitude to be very countercultural in the sense that, especially in North America, it's a very consumerism-driven culture, very goal-oriented. I know even in my own life, I'm always thinking about, what am I going to do next and what do I need to finish by this week, this month, this year? And that gets us very focused on things that don't exist yet, these abstract future concepts of, I'm going to attain this, I'm going to accomplish this. And gratitude is really about stopping and looking at what's right in front of you. And that can be the bigger things, like, I have a roof over my head, I have a car, I have food, I have a good job. But it can be as simple as, stopping in a parking lot and paying attention to, there's birds right now. I can hear birds, and I'm grateful for that. If that's something, if you're someone who connects with nature, that's something to be grateful for. So it's a very grounding practice.
Yeah, it's interesting you'd mentioned birds because it is something that I've grown in over time, the older I've gotten. I would say as a young person, I probably would have paid very little to no attention to birds. And I've recognized that how much detail and beauty and, in just incredible life that there is in birds, and taking time just to slow down and be grateful for that reality of what I can enjoy is an incredible thing. And it begins to let you or help you realize that the very best of things in life, are there right in front of you for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think it really sets a tone for your day too when you're starting with being grateful. One way that over the past few years I've tried to always start my day, and it's one of the cues for me that I know life is getting too busy when I fall out of this practice. But I start the day with coffee. I can take or leave breakfast, but I love coffee. And if I'm not starting the day with coffee, then it's probably going to be a bad day, which maybe that's a different problem that I need to address. That's fine. But I love starting the morning with making a cup of coffee and scooping the grounds, and like the smell of the grounds of coffee, I just love. And taking time to boil the water and steep the coffee and just stand in silence while I'm waiting for it to steep. And then preparing the coffee and sitting down with a cup of coffee and feeling the warmth of it because I'm always so cold in the morning. And everything about making a cup of coffee in the morning, even besides drinking the coffee, just the practice of making coffee in the morning really grounds me with gratitude in the morning. And it's a kind of funny thing to feel so grateful for.
It's really being very present and enjoying and appreciating the very simple things that are around you. And it turns your focus from those larger, more grand things that happen in life to the very basic things of beauty. And the Bible actually says that godliness with contentment is great gain. So it's saying it's a major asset in life to have both godliness and this element of contentment.
Absolutely. And I've only been around for a couple dozen years. I'm not that old yet, but certainly in observing other people's journeys, I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't practice gratitude, who feels they've accomplished everything and they're satisfied with what they've got. And
it's always the next thing.
There's always going to be another thing, right? I think it's so easy to be goal-oriented, and being goal-oriented has its own virtues too. That can be great. Being ambitious is wonderful, and that's biblical too. But it's important to balance that with gratitude and being present and realizing what's already around you, not just focusing on the abstract, one day I want, I will achieve, I will have.
Right. I agree. It's being both present here today and also being a person that looks to the future.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
balancing those two.
Yeah. So on that note, what are some of the things you're grateful for besides birds?
Besides birds, well, I am very grateful that I am loved by my family.
Happy to help.
It is an incredible experience to know that others are looking out for you, and I am blessed to be surrounded by good godly leaders. And, the network it's one of the great joys of giving leadership in the network is to be paid back by the richness of growing through interaction with other lives that, richly contribute back into mine. So I'm very grateful for my friends in ministry.
That's wonderful, yeah. And I think that's such an important aspect of gratitude, too, is when we can be grateful for what we have, we can give from that, too. So to zoom in then on that third practice, humility, it's a funny one because, we tend to like people who are humble. We're drawn to people who are humble. We tend to trust them more. There's lots of traits that we like about people that we can take at face value. You might appreciate people who are adventurous, and I can tell you I'm adventurous, and you can just believe me. But you can't say, I'm such a humble person. It's kind of counterproductive.
Right
You do. So it's an interesting trait because it's one that has to come from others' interpretation of you. It has to be something that others see in you. It's not something that you can claim to be. When you think about people in your life who you consider to be humble, what are some of the characteristics that they have?
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the things that I think happens in the life of a person that experiences humility, or that humility takes root in their life, is a proper relationship to God. Because, the greater you see God, the smaller you see yourself. And yet, on the flip side, the more valuable you see yourself as well, which is really interesting. But when I look in the life of other leaders that I interact with, I think one of the things that I appreciated, and is leaders who value every individual as being created and loved by God. And there's dignity of attention that's given to each individual, and that they can find the points of value and pleasure in that interaction with each person, and value the kind of contribution that they make to their life and the world that they live in. And I think personally, we can find value in nearly everybody that we meet.
Of course, yeah. Well, and I think going back to that idea of being really present, I think that relates to what you're saying, because you're stopping to see someone for where they're at and choosing to see the value in them and to be grateful for the person that they are and the things that make them them. And I think to add to that, I think other characteristics of humility is someone who's willing to listen, and not just listen to people who have more status or power than them, but listen to everybody in the room, because everyone has something to bring to the table. Like, everyone has different life experience, so it doesn't matter whose presence, everyone's bringing something that you haven't experienced, you haven't thought of before, maybe not from that perspective. So someone who's willing to listen to everyone in the room and take criticism and take feedback into consideration.
Yes, I totally agree. It's interesting, you can always tell when someone is entering the room and interacting with others, where their heart's at.
It's pretty revealing.
It is. It's very revealing.
And I think self-awareness, too, is another huge aspect of it. Knowing what you're good at, but also what you're bad at. I think that's why in interviews they always ask you, what's a strength and a weakness, right? Like, it's maybe great enough to list your strengths and I'm good at this and that and the other thing. But when you're aware of these are areas that I need to improve in, these are areas that I struggle in and I'm challenged in, I think it signals humility because it shows that you have a balanced sense of self, that you know you're not there yet and you're never going to perfect everything.
Well, and
because
I think
that's not humanity.
Yes, no, and I think it's something that humility, we need to cry out to God to form it in our life, because God is the one who's capable of developing and shaping and forming that in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rachel, we've had some conversations about healthy leadership here today, and that's been very, very good. What can we expect in the upcoming season as we get into some of these conversations and discussions with the guests, the leaders that we have on our program?
Yeah, so the upcoming season is going to be excellent because we have guests from all sorts of different disciplines and practices who are going to be sharing with us on what a healthy leader looks like. And the reason we chose to chat a little bit about holistic health today is because that multidimensional look at health, the different facets, the spiritual health, physical health, mental health, are kind of the ways that we're going to approach looking at health in the new season. So some guests are going to speak to practices for spiritual health. Other guests are going to speak to practical tools for your mental health. You know, how do you know when you're getting close to burnout and how do you deal with burnout? Things that leaders experience in everyday aspects of their journey. So we wanted to look at holistic health to really set the scene for the coming season of topics of health. And kind of on that respect, you know, a healthy leader journey is just that, it's a journey. There's no crash course.
Well, and I think one of the beautiful things that we have on the program is to listen to leaders in terms of the lessons that God has taught them about health in their own journey. Like it's coming out of real lived experience.
Absolutely.
And hearing those stories is amazing.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things about the show is that we get to have really personal conversations with people about their journeys and the challenges they've faced and the ways that they've sought to overcome them and the things they're still working on and the ways that they're working on them. And there's so much you can look at in health. And so that's why we're trying to break it down a little bit into different facets and the practical ways to approach health within that. But yeah, you know, healthy leadership is a journey. And, you know that because you've been leading much longer than I've been alive. But, just like life, that's ups and downs, ebbs and flows, and it's not linear, it's not compounded progress of, you're always building forward because sometimes there's setbacks. And that's life, and that's the journey of leadership. There's no crash course. There's no secret recipe someone's withholding from you. And if there was, we certainly don't have it, and so don't expect that in the new season. But what you will have in the new season is real people sharing from their real journey and what's been important to them and their health, whether that's in their emotional health, their spiritual health, their physical health. And I think one of the great things about Aaron Ministries is that it's about doing life together as leaders and learning from each other's journeys.
Friends in ministry.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am excited about this new season.
Me too.
And I am so glad that you're behind the scenes pulling things together and inviting wonderful guests and developing great questions. And so certainly on behalf of the whole network, thank you for the awesome work that you do.
Well, it's my pleasure.
And also for being an awesome daughter.
Well, thank you. It's also my pleasure.
And we'll look forward to the next program. We'll have these programs available weekly and on the podcast and twice a week on the YouTube channels. So check it out and look for the next upcoming Healthy Christian Leader show, and we'll see you there. Well, thanks for joining this conversation. I trust that you were encouraged and challenged by the stories and experiences that were shared today. Would you join us next week? You can find new episodes weekly in video form on the Aaron Ministries YouTube page and in audio form wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Ministries is an interdenominational network of friends in ministry with a mission to foster healthy Christian leadership. Check out our website, aaronministries.com, for more information and resources and on how you can donate to our ministry and potentially start a healthy Christian leader gathering in your area. Until we meet again, may you experience the Lord's blessing, grace, and peace. I'll see you next week.